Well, Merry Christmas to everybody. Hopefully you're in the thick of things at the moment or getting ready for Christmas or your holidays if you don't celebrate Christmas. So hope everybody's well. I'm going to keep this week's flag quite concise because I don't know how much time people are going to have just to stop. It might be that you want to stop and grab a cake or a mince pie or something, a cup of tea and watch this, or you just want to quickly glance through it. So it's going to be totally up to you how you do this week, but the video's not going to be very long, mainly because we're all very, very busy doing different sorts of things. So week 51, I decided to go for a bit of a silvery grey theme this week. I could have done, like, you could go traditional, you could go the red and greens, you could just do your own favourite colours. Really don't mind. You're going to need a range of materials, as in threads, this week. So you're going to want quite a chunky thread. We're going to do a little bit of couching, then some slightly thinner threads. We're going to be looking at bullions. I cannot finish the year without doing a bullion knot. And then I've got some really fine threads that we're going to look at working with a fly stitch, and we're just going to do quite a chilled stitched piece because I just thought everything's so hectic. It's just easy just to grab a few bits and pieces. If you're watching a film or something like that over the holidays, you can just sit and do your flag. So I've drawn out my template. I'm doing this onto a piece of felt. I was going to put it in an embroidery hoop, but then I decided I love it when it's all tactile, and actually it's going to be easier to hold than try and stretch in from an actual embroidery hoop. So what you're going to need first are just some bits of wool or some thicker threads. We're going to couch these on to create an area of texture. So I'm using a thin, so this is actually a silk thread. I was going to do, I don't know if I've got a big chunky needle. I've gone and left my needles downstairs and I don't think I've got a big chunky needle. Oh, that's a bit annoying. Normally I have got every different type of needle under the sun shouting out at me, and actually I can't see any needles shouting out at me, which is a little bit annoying. Anyway, okay, it doesn't matter. What I'm going to do is just loop that under, create a little loop, and what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to start couching. So couching is where you come up at one side and back down the other to catch your piece down. So I'm going to take that end back in and just couch that down just so that my end's there. Normally what I would do is I'd bring that through from the back, but I haven't got a big needle with me. So where I've created this loop now, I'm going to come up, go over the loop and back down. So then that'll pull, get that about halfway along my hoop, along the loop, sorry, and that'll pull it in. Okay, so what we're wanting to do is create a few areas of texture. So I'm going to do three little areas. So it's just creating a little loop, jumping over that bit of wool, and then just pulling it in. Oops. Let go of wool. There we go. Actually, it would have been better with a big needle for this, because then I could have just taken that down the back and then brought it back up again somewhere else. Best laid plans. I thought I had the best laid plans today. I was organised. Obviously not. It's this time of year. It sends you doolally. I think there's so much stuff that you have to organise that then just the simplest of things to organise just totally and utterly flummox you. There we go. Right, so what I'm going to do is done that bit. So the back, I'm just going to tie it off. Oops. Just so then I know that that is all nicely stitched down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I'm going to do next to each of the textured areas, because there's no point doing all three. Oh, there we go. Trim that off. Right, so there I've got my first textured area. Let's trim that. Okay, so that's my wool. So I'm going to do maybe another one there, and I might do another one there at the bottom. So you'll see the photos at the end what I've done. Next thing, go for a slightly thinner thread. So here I've got a variegated perlé and I've got it on one of my bullion needles, and we're going to do some bullions, and they're going to come out of our textured area. So your bullion, bring your needle up at the top of the stitch, make your stitch, don't make it too long, centimetres probably ideal. Bring that back up where your thread came out, and then this thread here, you wrap it around, oops, your needle, pull it through, there we go, slide your coils off, and then it naturally wants to come back over. Just slide your coils down and do another stitch. So we're going to do lots and lots of bullions, lots of different lengths, different directions. If you want it flat, have it so that your coil on your needle is the same length as the stitch that you've done. If you want them to be a little bit loopier, then make your coil just a little bit longer. I'm just going to pop my room lights on. The light at this time of year is crazy. I don't know if that's going to make a difference. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I'm coming out from this textured bit. Come out in all different directions, work your way around. So you can see I'm making my stitch. Let's bring this down a little bit. So I've made the stitch. While my needle's still in there, grab this thread, wrap it around, slide your coils down the bottom of your needle, and then just hold that between your thumb and finger. Just rock your thumb and finger backwards. There we go, and it slides off. Pull your needle through and then go back down the bottom of the stitch. So we're going to do loads of these coming all the way out. I've got a variegated thread, which is quite nice because it means that the colour obviously is going to change as I stitch, but you could use as many different colours as you wish when you're doing this. Pull it through. I think it's going to be a bit of a problem coming through the felt because it's quite, obviously felt's quite a close weave. So I'll carry on doing all those bullions, so that'll all build up. So I will go all the way around with this thread, and then I've got a slightly thinner thread that's a Danish cotton thread, which is a single stranded thread. If you've only got stranded threads, you can do a little bit like we did when we did the French knots, and we started with one strand and went to 2, or start with 6 and go backwards. So I'm going to go with a slightly thinner thread now, doing exactly the same. So I'm doing a bullion, and these are going to be interspersed between the bullions that I've just done. So thinner threads, you usually have to wrap it round quite a few more times to get the length that you need. Oops. It coils back down that. There we go. So again, work your way around. Lots of bullions. Now, I know that everybody has got different amounts of time this week for what they can do. Some people might just decide, you know what, I'm having a break. It's the holidays, I don't need to do my flag. Some people feel like, I need to do my flag. I don't want anybody to talk to me. I just need a bit of peace and quiet, just so that I can get on with something for 10 minutes rather than just thinking about feeding people or entertaining people. But It's the second to the last one. Can you believe it? Cannot believe it. I hope you're going to join me the week after next when we start next year's challenge. Ha! One finishes, another one begins. Don't worry if you've not finished them all. You can always either come back and finish them or just think, do you know what? I've done the ones that I wanted to do. And I'm quite happy with that. I don't have to go back and do them all. Because there was no prescription that you had to do them, apart from obviously I had to do them all. I think the thing I've loved about this, it's a little bit like when we did the tags. I've had to do 52. Because it's very easy. I know some weeks I've had like, oh, can't think of anything, not sure what to do, don't know where we're going with this, run out of ideas. So I think that's one of the reasons I'm quite looking forward to the 52 stitches. So a lot of people have asked about doing different stitches each week, and I didn't really want to do that with the tag. I know with the tags we did it every 4 weeks, we did a stitch, and I've thrown loads of different stitches in with this. But I just think it's quite nice sometimes just to be able to sit and just do something that's, well, I say fairly straightforward. Some of the stitches will be very familiar to people. Hopefully there'll be a few new ones. Check out the different ways that I've shown you as to how you can present them, either on the little quilt or in the book. Or obviously you can do your own way. I know I've chatted to a few people and they're doing them on like a quilt or in a book or on a scroll or just in an embroidery hoop and just building them up one after the other. Okay, so I'd carry on with that. So we've got texture, bullions, and then what you're going to do is with a fine thread is we're going to do a fly stitch. So this is going to then be the little bit that's going to be layered up outside. Let's grab a needle. Oh, she says. It's quite good every so often. It might be a good idea for the start of next year for you to get yourself some new needles, because it's one of those things that I never really thought about. I always think about it when I'm using my sewing machine, about getting a new needle because it's sharper and stuff, but I never think about it with my hand stitching needles. And obviously they are going to blunt over time. So I've started going through my needles and just, I have a little pot that I have all my old ones in, especially if I'm going to stitch into paper or something like that. It means then I've got old needles. It doesn't matter if they're blunt because they're just going to get blunter. But stitching with a new needle is like a revelation. So what we're now going to do is we're going to do fly stitches coming into this. So a fly stitch, you come up at one side, you go across and you stitch diagonally into the middle. This thread's gone round my needle and then you just do a little stem. Bring your needle up somewhere else, do the same thing. So we'll go from right to left, up in the middle, and then create a little stick. And we're going to layer these up. So I'm going to start with a dark grey first, and then I've got a lighter grey, and then a bluey grey. So I'll bring this out here so you can see. So your fly stitch, come up at one side, just lay your thread. So I'm left-handed, so I'm going from right to left. Stitch here and then come up in the middle, and that thread has gone round my needle. So thread has gone round my needle. Bring your needle out and make a little stalk. So your stalks can be all sorts of different lengths. And if you wanted to, one of the things that you could to sort of transfer sort of like one stitch into another is when you've done a few of these, so where you're working quite close to your edge, just do a couple more. So overlap them, and they sort of want to radiate out from your textured bit. I'll just hold that up there. So what you can do as well is you could pop a few, when you've got this really fine thread, a couple of tiny bullions. If you're doing that with a fine thread, don't pull it too tight on your needle. And this is basically it. So you've got a textured section in the middle, you're doing bullion knots radiating out, and then fly stitch radiating out from that. And what you're doing with your threads is you're slowly getting finer and finer with your threads. So that's the basic principle of what we're doing. So I'm not going to film myself sitting and doing all this, because you might not have time to sit and watch. So I will post, as usual, a few pictures at the end once I've sat and done it. And then there's a little thing for you to do sometime this week. You might decide to leave it till after Christmas, so when it goes a bit quieter and there's not as much to do when the family's gone. And then next week, that's it. We're done. There we go. So I'm going to finish that there. So I hope you have an amazing holiday. Merry Christmas to those of you that are celebrating Christmas. And I can't wait to see you next week. So let me just hold that up. I'll trim that fluffy bit. That's annoying me. There we go. That's better. There we go. Oh, the sun's just decided to come out. There you go. So you can see you've got your fluffy, your bullions, and then my fly stitch is going to start coming out of here. So you'll be able to see that a little bit more from the photos once I put those in at the end. So happy holidays, stay safe, have a fantastic time with your family, and I'll see you next week. Love, hugs, happy Christmas. See you soon.